A quiet farming town was swallowed by silence when Earl Higgins vanished, his tractor buried and still warm 4 decades later. But what rose from that field wasn't just a man. It was something wearing his face, seeded by a force that fed on memory and flesh. When the earth cracked open for good, it wasn't a grave, it was a womb, and the truth it delivered shook everything. But just wait until you hear how this nightmare ended, and why justice, in the end, didn't just return, it remembered.
Earl Higgins stepped off the porch just before sunrise, the sky still bruised with sleep. Betty watched him from the doorway, coffee mug in hand, her robe tied tight against the April chill. He didn't look back. He never did. He trusted the land, trusted his rhythm. She sipped her coffee, told herself she'd make his favorite pie before lunch. The field stretched like an ocean of frost. Earl climbed onto the tractor, ran his hands across the steering wheel like it was an old friend. He checked the fuel, adjusted the lever. One long breath, then the engine rumbled alive. The dog barked once, then the world resumed its silence. By noon, Betty called. No answer. She tried again an hour later. Still no answer. She told herself he left the phone inside the shed again. She'd scold him later. By 3, she walked to the barn, fingers already trembling. The sun had burned through the clouds, but the soil still felt cold. His boots were sitting by the door, placed neatly, facing inward. His wallet lay on top of the left one. Everything inside, driver's license, folded bills, his old rodeo punch card. Nothing missing, except him. No tractor, no tire lines, no tools, no footprints. Just flattened grass near the barn, as if something heavy had rested there and then disappeared. "Earl," she called out. Nothing answered. Not the wind, not the fields, not even the crows that usually sat on the silo like sentries. Betty staggered back to the house, slammed the screen door, and dialed the sheriff. Lang arrived 20 minutes later, still chewing a sandwich. Probably wandered off, got dizzy. Maybe he's lying somewhere with a busted hip. He would have called, Betty snapped. He always calls. Lang rubbed the back of his neck. "You said the tractor's gone too." She pointed, and look at the grass, no tracks. Lang crouched, touched the soil. "No disturbance," he muttered. "No broken stems. It's like he floated out." 2 hours later, Lang brought a deputy, then a third, then dogs, then the neighbors. Betty stood on the porch while men walked slow grids through the field. They called his name, fired warning shots into the air. One dog howled like it sensed a storm. Nothing. By nightfall, Betty was screaming. Not crying, screaming. Her throat hoarse, her hands bloodied from clawing the doorframe. Lang tried to calm her. She hurled a coffee mug at him. "Find my husband," she shrieked, "or find me a shovel." By midnight, helicopters buzzed above. Spotlights strafed the wheat. Planes from Wichita flew overhead. But the land gave back nothing. No warmth, no scent, not even a whisper of where a man could go. The next morning, Betty called Earl's brother in Nebraska. "He's gone," she said, "but the tractor too." "He took it and ran?" the brother asked. "He didn't run," she whispered. "He was taken." By afternoon, local reporters circled like buzzards. One snapped a photo of the boots beside the barn. It ran on the front page the next day. "Farmer vanishes, leaves everything but footsteps." Conspiracy nuts showed up by day 3, talking about aliens, wormholes, government experiments. One man climbed onto the barn roof with a divining rod. He left after something moved under the soil. That night, Betty sat alone in the dark. The police were done. The volunteers had gone home. The field still shivered in the wind. She opened Earl's closet, pressed his flannel to her face. It still smelled like motor oil and peppermint tobacco. Then she heard it. 3 knocks, slow, hollow, from the porch. She opened the door. No one there. Just an envelope on the step. Plain white. No stamp, no address. Just 5 words in black ink. Don't dig where he did. She dropped it because she knew exactly where Earl had planned to dig that morning. A patch at the edge of the field he called the bad rose. Said it always made the blade jam. Said the earth was harder there. Said it sounded different when he walked on it. Betty stared into the dark, at the silent, perfect rose, and whispered, "What did you find, Earl?"
The bulldozer stalled twice before they even hit the right depth. Kansas dirt fought back like it remembered. Dr. Renee Talbot stood at the edge of the trench, arms crossed, jaw clenched. The dig wasn't going to schedule, and the university was breathing down her neck. It was supposed to be a Civil War relic site, artifacts, bones, nothing alive. 6 more feet, the foreman barked, then we're stopping for rain. But they didn't make it 6. At 15 feet, the backhoe screamed metal on metal, then silence. "Hit a pipe?" Renee asked. "No pipes out here," the operator said, pale. They jumped in, brushed gently, then violently. Dust filled the air. Someone screamed. "It's a HUD!" The crew huddled. Renee dropped to her knees, swiped off the dirt herself. A red curve emerged, flaking but unmistakable. Then the John Deere logo. Then the key. Still in the ignition. One technician leaned in. "It's hot," he whispered. "The metal, it's warm." Renee stared. "That's not possible." "It's warm." The dig site exploded with movement, shouting, cameras, drones hovered above like vultures. They uncovered the whole thing in under an hour. The frame was rusted but intact. The tires? New, still inflated. The seat held a folded flannel shirt, gray, red checkered, crisp. "Jesus Christ," someone muttered. "That's Earl's." "Who?" "The farmer who vanished." A deputy on site called it in. The VIN matched a 1982 Massey Ferguson, registered to Earl Higgins. Last seen 1983. Declared dead 1993. But the engine was still warm. Not rust warm, running warm. Someone suggested battery heat. Another mumbled geothermal theory. One man joked time machine and got slapped. The news hit local TV within 2 hours. Then national. By sundown, conspiracy channels had theories. Hidden base, time rift, alien storage facility. Comment sections flooded. Betty was brought in quietly. No fanfare, no camera crews, just a sheriff's cruiser and 2 silent officers. She walked slow, steady, thin cane in hand, her hair white as ash. When she saw the trench, she stopped. "Take me down." "It's not safe," the deputy said. "Take me," she repeated, "now." They helped her descend. She touched the seat. Her breath caught. Her fingers trembled as they hovered over the flannel. "That's his," she said, "folded just like he did it, always over the seat, never inside. Said the cab smelled like grease." She touched the steering wheel. Still clean. He wiped it every morning. No one spoke. Then the engine clicked. Just once. A low metal pop, like something shifting inside. A reporter tried to lean in with a mic. The sheriff shoved him back. "Area's closed," he snapped. "This is a federal matter now." But it wasn't federal. Not yet. That night, the dig site was left under minimal guard. 3 archaeologists stayed behind, Renee among them. She couldn't sleep. She stood by the trench with her flashlight, eyes locked on the machine. At 2:14 a.m., Jason Wu, her grad assistant, stepped away to pee. He never came back. They found his boot the next morning. One boot, at the edge of the trench, facing down. No drag marks, no struggle, no blood. Just that single boot. And the flannel? On the seat? Gone. In its place, a folded sheet of yellow paper. 6 words, typed, centered.
The seed remembers where it slept. Renee didn't speak for 5 hours. When she did, she said one thing. We didn't dig something up. Pause. We woke it up.
The convoy arrived at dawn. Black SUVs, tinted windows, no plates. Men in gray suits poured out. No patches, no names, no insignia. Not a single smile. Sheriff Lang asked for credentials. A man stepped forward, bald, sunglasses, no badge. You're relieved. Of what? Jurisdiction. Lang looked at the warrant, blank ink, sealed. He nodded and left. The site was roped off within an hour. Drones grounded, locals pushed back, reporters blocked, equipment seized. Environmental hazard, they said, volcanic gas pocket. But Kansas didn't have volcanoes, and no one smelled gas. Dr. Renee Talbot watched it all from her motel room, window cracked, eyes burning. Her excavation turned into a crime scene overnight. No press release, no university statement, just silence. She waited until midnight. Then she moved. Through the back fence, past the abandoned trailers, through a side gate cut earlier with bolt cutters. She reached the trench alone. The tractor still sat in the pit, half-shadowed under a temporary canopy. Floodlights buzzed, but no guards. She climbed down, boots sinking in soft soil. The air was warmer now, sweaty, sweet. The glove box was open. Inside, Earl's notebook, leather-bound, water-damaged, pages swollen but intact. She flipped through it fast. June 14, 1983. Something's under us. I hear it every time I plow. Breathing, moving. I think the land's alive. If you find this, run. She froze. The words bled ink as if written yesterday. She turned the page. Blank. Then a smear, finger-sized, red-brown. Then the next. Not alone. Never alone. It calls me through the rows. Her flashlight flickered. Behind her, dragging, slow, wet, heavy. She spun. Nothing. Just silence. She backed away, notebook clutched tight. Then the dirt by the trench shifted. Not a collapse, not wind. A pulse, as if the ground had a heartbeat. She climbed out fast, breathing hard. But something caught her ankle. She kicked, nothing there. But her boot left a print, and the dirt filled itself back in, perfectly smooth. She ran. By morning she sat in the diner, pale, silent, clutching coffee with shaking hands. "Renee?" a waitress asked. "You okay?" She slid the notebook on the table. "Do you have a scanner?" The waitress blinked. "What?" "I need to copy this, before they take it." An hour later she sent the files to every journalist she trusted, then to herself, then to a burner drive. She looked up and froze. Across the street, one of the agents stood, still, staring, holding a black briefcase. She blinked. He was gone. That night she called her colleague in D.C. "You said they shut down the Leary dig?" "Yeah, why?" "Did they say why?" "Same reason, gas pocket." "Do you still have your field journal?" "Sure." "Send me your last day." An hour later it arrived. A photo of a handwritten note. Same handwriting as Earl's. Same ink. Same words. "If you find this, run." By 6:07 a.m., the camp was chaos. Renee's cot sat untouched. Her thermos still steamed. Her laptop blinked, open to the scan of Earl's notebook. But she was gone. The tent flap zipped from the inside. No footprints. Just a single trail of boots, hers, leading straight to the pit, then stopping. No return path, no drag marks, no stumble. "Something's wrong," Keene muttered. "This isn't natural." He pointed at her ID badge. It lay in a pool of oil near the trench, edges curled, numbers half melted. But the soil wasn't hot. Sheriff Lang knelt beside the tracks. Boots went in, nothing came back out. The team panicked. Some packed up. One woman screamed when her tent zipper jammed. Keene tried to calm them. "We halt all work, no more digging." "But we're so close," a student cried. "To what?" Keene barked. "Being next?" News broke within hours. Renee Talbot, missing. Federal agents silent. State authorities tight-lipped. But the public? Starving. Drones appeared, live streamers. The footage caught something no one expected. New plow rows. Wide, clean, symmetrical, carved into the field overnight. No one had moved the tractor. The site was locked, but that didn't matter. The algorithm had already swallowed the story. People whispered of cursed soil, reanimated machinery, government rituals. One tweet got 4.2 million views in under 3 hours. The land took her, and it's still hungry. That night, Keene sat alone. Everyone else had retreated to the trailers. He couldn't sleep. His hands trembled. Then the noise came. A low mechanical chug, rhythmic, familiar. Then the high-pitched whine of metal under pressure. He grabbed his flashlight, stepped into the night. The trench glowed faint red, and beside it, Earl's tractor, running, idling, alone. But something was different. The tires were gone, sunk halfway into the ground, like roots, like it had grown there. The exhaust puffed slow, steady breaths, and the driver's seat shifted, turned, facing him, and something was sitting there. But not someone, something. It wore clothes, a human shape, but wrong. Its arms were too long, its shoulders sloped forward, its head twitched like a broken metronome. And its face? Empty. No eyes, no nose, just a split down the center like a seam, pulsing. Keene screamed, stumbled backward. The headlights flared, bright, blinding. The field lit up like a spotlight, and in that moment, he saw the rows. Not lines, symbols, carved into the land like scripture. He snapped a photo. The light died. When he looked up again, nothing. The tractor was gone, only his own boot prints in the soil. And in the center of the clearing, Renee's necklace, wrapped tight around a broken gear, still warm, still wet, still beating. Keene didn't scream like a man. He screamed like a wire snapping, like something too tight finally tearing loose. They found him on the gravel just past the east gate, knees bleeding, shirt ripped down the back. He bit the EMT trying to help him, took off a chunk of skin. He kept whispering one thing. "He's under the field. He sees us." "Who?" someone asked. Keene didn't answer, just laughed. Not a chuckle, not even madness. A laugh like static, guttural, mechanical. His fingernails were gone, ripped to the quick. His lips blistered like they'd kissed an exhaust pipe. At the clinic, he clawed at the walls. They tied him down. He wept, then smiled, then screamed, then went still. In his hand, they found a broken lens, his camera, smashed. But the SD card? Intact. One photo survived. They projected it on the wall. The room went dead quiet. Earl Higgins. Bare-chested, skin gray, eyes glowing, not reflecting, glowing, like 2 tractor beams drilled through his sockets. He stood in the field, smiling, hand raised, waving. And that smile? It wasn't human. Betty saw it and dropped her tea. The cup shattered. "That's not him," she said. "That's not my Earl." Her voice cracked. "He never smiled like that. Never." The mayor shut down the site within an hour, called it a breach, claimed jurisdiction, ordered the gates locked, fences rebuilt, no one in, no one out. But it was too late. 2 teens, Dylan Mathers and Casey Roy, jumped the north fence that night, brought GoPros, live streamed on Twitch.
At 12:41 a.m., their feed hit 18,000 viewers. A joke at first, laughing, flashing lights. "Let's find Zombie Earl," they said. At 12:47, the camera caught the field. Fresh plow lines, but deeper, jagged, spiral light, not mechanical. They walked further, one whispering he heard breathing. The other joked about crop circles. At 12:49, the audio glitched, then went silent. 6 seconds of static. Then black. Stream dead. The feed never returned. By morning, their families were panicking. The sheriff traced their phones, both pinged inside the old Higgins silo. Lang approached the structure slowly, old, rusted, forgotten by zoning maps. He pushed the door. It creaked open with a wet sound. Inside, dark. The air stank of iron and rot. Their phones lay side by side, blinking red, caked in red clay, and something else. Skin, folded, peeled, flattened, like pages in a book, tucked neatly inside the tractor seat, like a gift. The mayor saw it and vomited. An officer fainted. Lang pulled the phones, scanned the last frame. A field of dirt, rows spelling one word, welcome. And in the top left corner, a figure, barely visible, smiling, still waving.
Everyone thought this was about Earl. The missing farmer, the vanished man, the face on the flyers, the ghost in the field. But Earl wasn't the root. He was the rot. City Hall records dated back to 1921. The property sat on parcel 77-314, labeled unclaimed until 1953. That's when the Higgins name appeared. Except they never bought it. Betty found the truth by accident. A water stain on the attic floor revealed a metal box. Inside, deeds, letters, contracts. One caught her eye, a lease, dated 1953. Signed not by her father-in-law, but by something called Atos Core Industries. No logo, no contact. Just a stamped address in New Jersey that no longer existed. She flipped the page, a second sheet, handwritten, faded ink, shaky lines. Seed must remain buried. If it wakes, no harvest shall survive. She showed it to the sheriff. Lang paled. Who the hell leases farmland for 99 years and never collects rent? She pointed at the clause near the bottom. All subterranean activity belongs to grantor. What does that mean? I think it means whatever's under us isn't ours. That night, the barn shook. A thunder crack split the ground. 60 feet of trench ripped open behind the feed trough. The earth didn't collapse. It opened. Fresh plow lines, curved, jagged, like veins. They pulsed under moonlight. The town gathered at sunrise. People whispered prayers, crossed themselves, some packed bags. Then the sound began. A hum, low, subsonic, vibrating bones. Dogs barked, windows rattled, infants screamed, and somewhere in the field, a voice. Not a scream, not a moan. Words, familiar ones. "Earl?" someone whispered. The voice kept calling, but it wasn't asking for help. It was listing names, names of the living, children, grandparents, dead men, unborn ones. It named everyone, and it didn't stop. Betty fell to her knees. "That's not his voice." "It is," Lang said, trembling. "No," she growled. "Earl never said my name like that." The mayor called in Homeland Security. But the men who arrived weren't from any agency Lang recognized. They brought blueprints, not maps. One showed underground tunnels, dated 1938. Another, an X-ray. "Those aren't pipes," Lang said. "No," the agent replied. "They're tendrils." The town council was briefed. They weren't shocked. 3 of them resigned on the spot. Wait, Lang snapped. You knew? We knew the land was restricted, one said. We didn't know it talked. Betty stood. It's not just talking. She held up a Polaroid, taken that morning. The trench spelled a phrase. 5 words. You took what was mine. The mayor dropped it. Then something hissed from the silo. The sound of plowing. But there was no wind, no wheels. Only soil, breathing, moving, waiting, under them all.
Sheriff Lang didn't write a letter. He didn't call his daughter. He didn't take his gun. He left his badge hanging from a fence post by the Higgins barn, stepped into his truck, and drove 300 miles south. No one saw him go. No one ever saw him again. That same morning, the teen's GoPro footage hit the dark web. Only 10 seconds. A whisper. Then a guttural growl. Then a boy's voice, Dylan's, screaming, "It's wearing his face." Then black. Then screaming. Then silence. Betty watched it once. Her hand never trembled. She stood up, locked the front door, lit the fireplace for the first time in 20 years. She burned everything. The lease, every photocopy, Earl's journals, his shirts, his wedding ring, even the photo from their honeymoon. Then she sat in her rocking chair and opened her veins. The note in her lap said 6 words. He told me the truth. Then underneath, the soil isn't dead, it's pregnant. The town didn't hold a service. They didn't know what to say. At town hall, Mayor Silas slammed the council room doors, called an emergency vote. We end this. End what? Someone asked. The land. He opened a folder labeled Operation Reclaim. We salt the fields. We bulldoze the silo. We burn the Higgins house to the ground. We erase everything. He raised his gavel. No more talking. We vote. But someone stood. Reverend Miles. White hair, leather boots, torn collar. 60 years in the pulpit. 60 years watching the dirt. You think this just started? He said. Silas narrowed his eyes. Reverend. No, you shut up and listen. He dropped a rusted Bible onto the table. Its spine split down the middle. He opened it. Inside, a hollow cut through the pages. A secret compartment. He pulled out a photo, black and white. 5 men in coveralls, standing in a circle, shovels in hand. In the center, a hole, and something climbing out. It wasn't clear, blurry, but wrong. Long arms, no face, flesh like cracked bark. It reached toward the men. One was smiling. That's not Earl, Silas said. No, Miles replied. That was 1949, before Earl, before me. He slid another photo forward. Same spot, same circle, same hole. But this time, a child in the middle, curled, sleeping. It's not the first birth, Miles whispered. It's just the next. Where did this come from? Asked the councilwoman. Under the church, behind the old boiler. No one ever reported this. We weren't allowed. Allowed by who? Miles pointed to the signature on the back. ACI, Eidos Core Industries. They sponsored the mission, promised us growth, claimed the land would feed us forever. But it's never been soil, it's womb. The room went silent. Then the lights flickered. A hum echoed from the floorboards. Low, familiar, from beneath. The council chamber vibrated. One man dropped his coffee. It shattered. Another clutched his ears. It's talking again, someone whispered. No, Miles said. It's calling. The ground cracked near the podium. Thin veins of red clay pushed through the seams. Mayor Silas screamed, "Get out! Evacuate the building!" But no one moved. They were all listening. The voice said names, their names. Then, Welcome home.
3 council members handed in resignations by noon. One didn't show. His door hung open, wallet on the table, keys in the ignition, coffee half finished, blood on the doorknob. No body, no note. Reverend Miles stepped into the center of the chaos like a man walking into fire. He summoned everyone to the old chapel. No announcements, no flyers, just a bell ringing, old and cracked, but loud enough to pull people from their homes like a summons from God. By nightfall, the pews were full. Candles flickered, windows boarded shut, doors locked from the inside. He didn't preach, he revealed. 2 hours. 2 hours of dates and blood and roots. His voice rising and breaking. He spoke of 1922, when the dirt turned black and the sky screamed for 7 days. Of 1939, when birds flew upside down and cows gave birth to stillborn calves with no mouths. Of 1983, when the wind carried names and Earl plowed too deep. In '83, it fed, he said, and now it wants more. He pointed at the altar. Behind it, a mural, faded, cracked. Look closer. Someone whispered, "Saints?" "No," he said, "farmers." The paint began to flake. Figures on their knees, faces veiled, hands outstretched, holding bowls of soil. Above them, something tall, too tall. Pale skin like driftwood, long arms bent wrong, horns spiraling backward like roots. No face, just a mouth, open, waiting. The room gasped. Then someone screamed. "It's him!" a woman shrieked. "It's what's in the photo!" People pushed for the doors, but they wouldn't budge. "I locked them," Miles said calmly. "You have to hear all of it." More candles went out. He held up an old journal, pages yellowed, soaked in wax and ink. "Earl wasn't the first," he said. "This town was planted. You were born here because it wanted you." A man shouted, "What the hell do you mean, planted?" You ever wonder why no one ever moves in? Why no one ever moves out? Why the land never sells? He opened the journal, showed the page. A list of surnames, dozens, all familiar. "These are the lines," he said, "chosen blood." Someone fainted, another vomited in the aisle. "Every few generations it asks," Miles said. "You either give or it takes." He raised his voice. "But now it's not asking." A teenage girl stood up. "What if we run?" "You can't." "Why?" "Because it's not in the soil," he said. "It is the soil." Gasps. Then silence. Then the bell above the chapel rang by itself. Once, twice, thrice. Outside, headlights cut across the church lawn. Someone screamed from the back. "The fields, they changed again!" The townspeople ran out, shoving, crying. They stopped at the fence line. Every acre had been plowed, perfect mechanical rows. But not random. Letters. 16 feet wide, carved deep into the wheat. "Return the rest." They stood in silence. And from the trench behind the barn, the voice started again, calling names. Dylan Hart snapped sometime after midnight. Something broke in his eyes. Quiet, final. He said nothing to the others, just walked out of camp and into town, jacket zipped, lips tight. At 1:32 a.m., he smashed a side window at the county morgue with a rusted tire iron. The alarm never went off. He walked straight to the evidence locker. Earl's flannel, sealed in plastic, labeled, still folded exactly the way Betty said he used to fold it. Dylan tore the bag open and stuffed it under his coat. "I'll burn it," he told his girlfriend Marla over the phone. "If it's a tether, I'll break it." She begged him to come back. He hung up. By 4 a.m., his truck was overturned in the creek. No skid marks, no impact, just flipped like a child's toy tossed aside. Inside, the flannel lay on the seat, clean, untouched.
The windshield had something smeared across it. Ash. 2 words. Fields hungry. They found no footprints, no tracks, no Dylan. Marla locked herself in a motel room off Highway 7. She shoved a dresser against the door, pulled the curtains tight, then hit go live. The stream opened on her eyes, bloodshot, wide, terrified. "They're wrong," she whispered. "This isn't a haunting." She flipped the camera, her arm, bare. Lines moved beneath her skin, not veins, thicker, sharper. They writhed like worms, coiling, shifting, as if something was swimming in her flesh. "They planted something in him," she said, "and it's in me now too." Her lips trembled, her pupils dilated. She screamed. Her scream exploded online, 30 million views by noon. But by the end of the video, her voice dropped. She leaned close to the lens. "He's walking the rows again," she whispered. Then, black. No signal. Police kicked in the motel door 15 minutes later. No Marla, no blood, no signs of struggle. Just her phone, still recording, facing the mirror. And in that reflection, Earl stood behind her. The footage made the front page. Every station played it. Comment sections filled with theories, hoax, viral art, hallucination. But one detail no one could explain. In the mirror, Earl's flannel was wet, and it was raining only in the reflection. A private search team swept the motel perimeter. Dogs howled. One handler collapsed after vomiting soil. At 3:19 p.m., the live stream rebooted automatically. No one touched the phone. It showed only black. Then static. Then a field, rows swaying. And a man's voice, slow and hoarse. "Where's the seed?" Then laughter. But it wasn't human. They burned the fields. All of it. 40 acres from the barn to the chapel. They poured gasoline, diesel, even napalm from an old National Guard depot. They didn't pray. They didn't wait for clearance. They lit the match at sunset and stood in silence as the flames swallowed everything. The fire roared. It screamed like it had lungs, like it was choking something alive. Children covered their ears. Adults held hands and pretended not to shake. For 9 hours, the sky bled orange, and still the fire grew. At 4:11 a.m., it stopped, just like that. No ember, no smoke. The ground looked dead, charred black, nothing left. But by dawn, the ash was cold, and the plow marks were back, fresh, sharp, deep enough to break stone. And this time, they spelled a name. Betty. Someone gasped. "She's dead." "No," whispered a woman in the crowd. "She's gone." They ran to the cemetery. Plot 4C. Betty Higgins, born 1938, died 3 days ago. The headstone was cracked. The grave empty. No shovel marks, no displaced dirt, just an open rectangle of loam, moist and dark, like something had climbed out. Dr. Keene escaped the facility that night. He slipped through the emergency stairwell barefoot, leaving bloody footprints every third step. He made it as far as a truck stop 20 miles out. He found Wi-Fi, posted one final video, not to YouTube, to the dark web. It was shaky, grainy, lit only by a truck's dome light, but his voice was clear. "You can't bury it," he whispered. "You can't burn it, because it's not just under us, it's in us. It's old, and it's starving." He was crying, snot dripping from his chin. His hand shook. Then the phone fell. A blur, movement in the corner. Something big, tall, like bone wrapped in bark. Then the screen flickered. For 1 second, his face. But something was wrong. His lips were gone, torn clean. His mouth sewn shut with barbed wire. He tried to scream, and something screamed with him. Something deeper, wetter, like the sound roots make when you rip them from earth. The video cut. Authorities raided the truck stop within the hour. Nothing left but a burned SIM card and a smear of teeth on the passenger door. Not blood, teeth. Hundreds, tiny, like a baby's. Back in town, the soil trembled. Not visibly, but people felt it, in their bones, in their teeth. Then the whispers came again. Only this time, they weren't names. They were instructions. 3 words: dig, plant, wait.
Under gray Kansas sky, the town hall buzzed like a hornet's nest. Men in flannel, women with rosaries, teens gripping phones they no longer dared raise. Then the screen flickered on, static. Then him. Dr. Paul Decker, tall, pale, eyes sunken like he'd stared too long at something humans weren't meant to see. His voice trembled, not with fear, but urgency. I used to work for Langley. We scanned Mars for anomalies. But in 1985, a different file landed on my desk. Kansas. Soil sample, labeled E. Higgins. The crowd leaned in. I ignored it. Then I didn't. Last month, the file resurfaced, leaked through an old CIA backup. I ran the sample through modern spectral topology. He clicked. The projector displayed a 3D structure, root-like, but denser. Not bone, not fungus. A spiral web of microscopic vessels. Those aren't cells, he said. They're messages, structured down to the atomic lattice. Think DNA, but conscious. The room gasped. What's it say? Someone asked. Decker hesitated. It's not saying, it's listening. He switched slides. Scan after scan. One from 1991, one from 2003, the last from 2 weeks ago. All showed the same shape, but growing. Circular, layered, veined. It pulsed on the screen like a heart. A structure? Someone asked again. Decker shook his head. A womb. Silence. Then gasps. No, Mayor Silas muttered. You're wrong. Am I? Decker countered. Where's your sheriff? Your scientists? The woman who live-streamed her veins moving? You burned the field and it answered. You buried a man and it bloomed. Shut it down, the mayor snapped. But the screen didn't shut. It pulsed. Then a sound. Not static, not feedback. A voice. Faint, layered, mechanical, and wet. Decker turned pale. That's from the geophone I left in the trench. What's it saying? Reverend Miles asked, gripping his rusted Bible. Decker swallowed, then pressed play again. Seed accepted, skin growing. Someone dropped a cup. It shattered. Jesus, a farmer muttered. It's birthing. Decker nodded. Earl was first, but not final. That land didn't just take him. It used him, rewrote him. Now it's scaling up. Scaling what? A teenager shouted. What the hell are we talking about? Decker stared hard. Mass assimilation. You think it's about ghosts? It's biology. Foreign, prehistoric. Not from space, from here. Before trees, before mammals. It waited. Then it fed. How many? A woman whispered. He didn't speak, just played the next file. Audio only. Layers of whispering. Chant-like. Then clear voices. Thousands. Distinct. Calling names. Earls. Bettys. Langs. Keens. Deckers. Then others. The woman in the front row gasped. That's my name.
Mine too, thought someone else. Then, all at once, the lights blew out. The projector exploded in sparks. And from under the floor, deep, distant, a thump. Then another. Pulses, like breath, like labor. "Get out," someone shouted. But the doors were stuck. The windows vibrated, not from wind, from sound. A chant. Under the floorboards. Low, rising. Seed accepted, skin growing. Seed accepted, skin growing. The pews began to shake. Then from beneath the carpet, a crack split open. A smell hit them, sweet, fungal, decayed. Then the floor caved. Something beneath. Not roots, flesh, pale and veined, stretching up like a hungry mouth. And from below, Earl's voice. But it wasn't calling for help. It was laughing.
They came just after dusk. The final 23. Not from the woods, not from the roads, from the dirt. They rose one by one, caked in soil, bones popping, as if reborn. All of them bore familiar faces, Betty's crooked smile, Earl's folded brow, the teen's blurred expressions frozen in digital memory. But the eyes weren't eyes, just hollows, black pits, no light, no life, only hunger. Their mouths moved in unison, but no sound, just a rhythm, lips twitching like insects, like something else was trying to remember how to speak. Mayor Silas never got to see it. He'd vanished 2 nights before, his office door ajar, his desk clean, one note carved into the oak with a steak knife. "It already ate me." And Miles, they found him dangling from the chapel bell rope. A congregation gathered to cut him down. When they did, his skin burst like fruit. His insides weren't his. Wet, thread-like roots spiraled from his gut, wrapped around the bell's clapper, a final message ringing out with each swing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The sound didn't fade, because the earth had cracked. At the field center, where Earl's tractor once sat, a new crater opened, circular, symmetrical, unnatural. Soil pushed outward like lungs expanding. Beneath it, dark, no floor, no bottom, just depth. And from that void came the 23. Each walked barefoot across the plowed rows. Each stopped in the same spot. Each knelt. And then they buried themselves. One hand, one knee, then shoulders, heads, gone. Swallowed whole, no scream, no flinch. The soil sealed shut behind them like muscle healing. By dawn, the field was flat again, except the plow lines, fresh, deeper than before, spelled in rows. Will you return what was fed? They paved the town that year, federal order, military contractors, silent crews with black vans and no logos. They poured concrete over every square foot of the field, over the barn, over the chapel, over the graves. Within 2 months, a mall opened, chain stores, food court, security guards who never spoke, no locals hired, no windows in the back offices. They called it Prairie Hills Plaza. But the old-timers wouldn't go near it. They said the tile in front of the fountain always felt warm, like skin. Kids joked about voices in the bathroom vents, about the mannequin in the Forever 21 that sometimes changed pose when no one was looking. Until one night, a janitor vanished. His mop bucket still full, his name badge dropped in front of a grate. The next morning, a new plow line was burned into the concrete near the loading dock. A name. Yours. They tried repaving 5 times. It came back, always deeper, always closer to the food court. One year they tiled over it with black marble. Didn't matter. By Christmas, the message changed. You planted me, now I grow. Dr. Decker was found living in a trailer 2 states away, hair gone, teeth filed. He'd drawn spirals on every wall in ink and blood. I recorded it, he told a podcaster once, that final pulse. What pulse? He smiled. The contraction. It's not done. It's just started. This isn't a haunting. This is gestation. And then he turned the microphone toward his chest. It picked up something beneath his ribcage. A heartbeat. Not his. So what do you do with a place like that? You don't warn people. You put up fences. You call it sinkhole territory. You install cameras and delete the footage every 3 hours. But the names keep coming. One by one, in dreams, on receipts, on cracked phone screens. Sometimes at midnight, people say they smell grass. Fresh, cut, wet. But there's no lawn nearby. Only asphalt. Only echoes. Only humming beneath your feet. And if you ever wake up and find dirt under your nails, if your dog won't step on your porch, if the streetlight flickers just once, in rhythm, then don't run. It already knows your name.